Hello students, hope you all are fine and safe at home. Before we start a new topic, let's recall the main points of the topics that we have already done in the previous class. Okay? So, Diwani means the right to collect land revenue. The East India Company got the Diwani of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa from the Mughal ruler in 1765. Okay. Then 1865. Before 1865, the company import gold and silver to purchase Indian goods like fine cotton and silk. But after 1865, they want to use the collected revenue or the collected money as a revenue for purchasing the Indian goods. So obviously it resulted in the deep crisis in Bengal economy. Okay? So at that time the economy wasn't doing well, even in the agriculture field and in the artisanal production field. Amid all these things, in 1770, a famine attack or a terrible famine hit Bengal, in which more than 1 crore people died, or we can say 1/3 of Bengal population was wiped out. Okay? So next comes, in order to bring the economy in its position or to improve the economy, the company wanted to invest on the land and at the same time wanted to improve the agriculture. So they started implementing many policies. Okay, so in that we will see permanent settlement, Mahalwari Settlement and Regatwari Settlement. Okay, so now let's compare and contrast between permanent settlement, Mahilbari Settlement and Rayatwari Settlement. So we have seen permanent settlement was introduced by Charles Cornwallis in 1793 and it was introduced in Bihar and Bengal. Similarly, the revenue was fixed. Here the revenue was fixed. It means the revenue amount will not be increased or decreased in near future. And the zamindar, he used to collect rent from the farmer and he gives this same amount as a revenue to the company. Okay? Then Mahalwari Settlement. Mahalwari Settlement was introduced by Holt Mackenzie and it was introduced in 1822 in central India and in Punjab. Here, unlike permanent settlement, here the revenue amount can be revised periodically, and here the village headman, he used to collect rent from the farmers and gave revenue as a revenue to the company. Third comes the Rayatwari Settlement. It was mostly practiced in South India because in South India in those days zamindari system wasn't there. So it was introduced by Captain Alexander Reed and Thomas Munro between 1819 to 1826, and here also the amount can be revised periodically, and as such I told you before also, as there was no zamindari system in southern India, so the revenue amount was directly collected from the cultivator by the company. Is that okay? Now let's move to the new topic. Okay? So after implementing permanent settlement, Mahalwari Settlement and Rayatwari Settlement, it was felt by the company that it will make the peasants a rich enterprising farmer, but it wasn't so because of their high land revenue demand. Okay, because of so high revenue demand by the company, the peasants were unable to pay. So most of the peasants, they fled to the countryside, and very soon the villages became deserted. Now as we have seen that how the farmers were being exploited by taking or by demanding so high revenue, here we will see the company forced the farmers or compelled the farmers to cultivate only those crops from which they can get more profit, as well as these crops were in great demand in the Western market. So here it means that the farmers had no right to cultivate the crops of their choice. And here we will see that the Britishers, the company, compelled the farmers to grow indigo and opium, which was in great demand in the Western market. And after some time, in different parts of India, the company asked the farmers to grow other crops also, like rice in Madras, tea in Assam, wheat in Punjab, and cotton in Maharashtra, then jute in Bengal. Understood? So let's see what crops has to be cultivated, how this had an impact on the farmer's life. Okay? So just look at your screen. There is two pictures are coming, picture number 1 and picture figure 2 and figure 1. If you see both the figure, okay, that both the figure number 1, it's actually a kalamkari print created by the weaver of Andhra Pradesh, and in the figure 2, it's a floral cotton print designed and produced by William Morris, a famous poet and artist of 19th century Britain. If you see both the figures, figure number 1 and figure 2, maybe figure 1, the color, behind the color which you can see on the screen may not be looking visible as a blue, but it is actually blue. Okay, so in the figure 1 and figure 2, common in both the pictures you can see is that blue color. Okay, common in the two prints, both use a rich blue color commonly called indigo. Do you know how this color was produced? The blue that you see in these prints was produced from a plant called indigo. It is likely that the blue dye used in the Morris print in 19th century Britain was manufactured from indigo plant cultivated in India. India was the biggest supplier of indigo in the world in those days. Understood? So one thing I want to tell you here, that the colors which is being used for printing as a printing on the clothes and all, today we use synthetic colors, but in those days the people, the cloth dyers, they mostly use the natural colors, and these natural colors come from either like green from leaf and red and yellow from various other flowers. Okay, but in those days they don't know how to make a synthetic color, so they solely depend upon the natural colors. Okay, so here blue color also come from the plant called indigo. So my dear students, let's see why there was a demand for Indian indigo. Okay, the indigo plant grows primarily in the tropics. By the 13th century, Indian indigo was being used by cloth manufacturers in Italy, France, Britain to dye cloth. Now in the tropics, you know what is the tropics? Tropics means a place which is very close to equator. There the indigo plant grows very nicely, okay, like in India and all. However, only small amount of Indian indigo reached the European market and its price was very high, because the amount of Indian indigo reached to the European market was very less, very in a small quantity, so therefore the demand was very high, so automatically the price was also high. Okay, so European cloth manufacturers therefore had to depend on another plant called woad to make violet and blue dye. Now here the European cloth manufacturers were solely dependent upon the Indian indigo, and it has been seen that the Indian indigo was coming into the European market at in a very small amount, so therefore they wanted some other alternative, and they got one more alternative, that is also a plant called woad, and this was almost grown in the temperate zone. Being a plant of the temperate zone, woad was more easily available in Europe. Okay, it was grown in northern Italy, southern France, and in parts of Germany and Britain. Now let's see here woad and indigo, they both are the common plant I mean both are commonly a plant that produce blue or violet color. Okay, the wood mostly it is grown in the temperate zone. Temperate zone means what? A place where the temperature is neither too cold nor it is too hot. Okay, so and indigo it is mostly grown in the where it has been grown in a the tropics, like in India. Okay, so though they both the plant produces blue and violet color, but there was a difference between the both. What was the difference? The difference was that this wood produces the blue color which was pale and dull, whereas the indigo it was rich and attractive. Okay, rich and attractive. So worried by the competition from indigo, wood producers in Europe pressurized their government to ban the import of indigo. Cloth dyers, however, they preferred indigo as dye, because I already told you, because indigo can produce a rich and attractive color, so the cloth dyers mostly they prefer indigo and not the wood. And because of that, the wood producers they want to have a monopoly over the European market in the matter of dye, so they asked their government to put a ban on the import of indigo. Understood? So indigo produced a rich blue color, whereas the dye from wood was pale and dull. By the 17th century, European cloth producers persuaded their government to relax the ban on indigo import. The French began cultivating indigo in Saint-Domingue in the Caribbean islands, the Portuguese in Brazil, the English in Jamaica, and the Spanish in Venezuela. Indigo plantation also came up in many parts of North America. As the indigo plantation gives lot of profit, as well as more than a profit, it has become like a money making thing. Okay, and moreover there was too much of demand of the indigo in the European market, and that's why everywhere indigo plantation being started. Okay, so like the French people they started cultivating, the French began cultivating indigo in Saint-Domingue in the Caribbean island, just now I told you, the Portuguese in Brazil, the English in Jamaica, the Spanish in Venezuela. Okay, and indigo plantation also came up in many parts of North America. By the end of the 18th century, the demand for Indian indigo grew further. Britain began to industrialize and its cotton production expanded dramatically, creating an enormous new demand for cloth dyes. Now what happened? As there was industrialization started in Britain, and the textile industries also started flourishing, so they needed lot of dye, especially the indigo. Okay, so they were dependent, now they are very much dependent upon the Indian indigo. While the demand for indigo increased, its existing supplies from the West Indies and America collapsed for a variety of reasons. So even the indigo was coming from America and West Indies, but at that time when the industrialization was in peak, at that movement what happened, it was due to some reason the indigo production in West Indies and America collapsed. Okay, between 1783 and 1789 the production of indigo in the world fell by half. Cloth dyers in Britain now desperately looking for new source of indigo supply. Now what happened? The Britain needs a dye, so now it was searching from where they can get the indigo. So now they turn towards India. Okay, faced with the rising demand for indigo in Europe, the company in India looked for ways to expand the area under indigo cultivation. From the last decades of the 18th century, indigo cultivation in Bengal expanded rapidly, and Bengal indigo came to dominate the world market. Means the most of the indigo, it was going to the European market, it was mostly from Bengal. Actually these indigo dyes which was reaching to the European market, it was mostly cultivated in Bengal. Okay, in 1788 only about 30% of the indigo imported in Britain was from India, but the same thing by 1810 the proportion had gone up to 95%. Means the indigo that reaches the European market, that in that 95% was alone coming from Bengal. 95%. Okay. Now, as the indigo trade grew, commercial agents and officials of the company began investing in indigo production. Now, what happened? As the indigo was doing well and indigo became a profit-making crop. So now what happened? The company and other commercial agents, they started investing their money on the indigo production. Over the years, many company officials, they left their job to look after their indigo business. Now what happened? Even the company officials who were in job, they now resigned their job and they started doing a indigo business, because in this they felt more profit than being in a service. Understood? So, attracted by the prospect of high profits, numerous Scotsmen and Englishmen came to India and became planters. See, other than this, what happened? I told you the company officials, they resigned their job and they put their money in they invested their money in the indigo business. But now what happened? Even because of high profit in this crop, in the production of this crop, they get high profit. Even numerous Scotsmen and Englishmen, they came to India and became planters. Those who had no money to produce indigo could get loans from the company and the banks that were coming up at the time. Means those people who do not have money or who had no money, the company very easily give them the loan at low interest, so that they can invest their money or they can do their indigo business. Understood? Now we will see how was indigo cultivated. Okay, there were the two main systems of indigo cultivation. The number one is niche and Rayatwari. Okay, niche and Rayatwari. So let's first see what is niche. Within the system of niche cultivation, the planter produced indigo in lands that he directly controlled. He either bought the land or rented it from other zamindars and produced indigo by directly employing hired laborers. The planters found it difficult to expand the area under niche cultivation. Means here, under the niche cultivation, the company, the planters, they directly brought the cultivation under their control. They used to buy a very big plot or very big land where in acres they can do the indigo cultivation or indigo plantation. In those days, what happened? For indigo plantation, either they purchased the land or they used to take it in lease from the zamindars and hired laborers for work over there. Okay. Now, indigo could be cultivated only on fertile land, and these were all already densely populated. Only small plots scattered over the landscape could be acquired. Now, planters needed large areas in compact blocks to cultivate indigo in plantations. Okay. So, I told you for the indigo plantation they needed a very big land. And in those days also, and moreover in the indigo plantation they required a fertile land. Okay, so what happened? It was so, it was already, the land was filled with the highly densely population. So here they were not getting a land where they can do the indigo plantation. They were getting, but in a very small area. So where they could get such land from? They attempted to lease in the land around the indigo factory and evict the peasants from the area. Now what they did, where they kept the indigo factory, where the indigo factory was there, in that area, near to that area, all the lands they brought under indigo plantation. Okay, there they did the indigo cultivation. Now the area near to the factory, actually it was some other's place. So what they did is that they pay money and they evict those peasants, or in some area in some places they forcibly evict the peasants from that area. So but this always led to conflict and tension, and apart from that, nor the labor and even it was very difficult to mobilize the laborers. Okay. A large plantation required a vast number of hands to operate, and labor was needed precisely at a time when peasants were usually busy with their rice cultivation. Because it was a big plantation, indigo plantation, it means it needs a lot of labor, and for that also here under the niche cultivation there was a problem. Why? Because when the peasants were required for labor, at the same time the peasants were busy in cultivating their rice. Okay, so cultivating rice, so here the problem of labor created. Okay, niche cultivation on large scale also required many ploughs and bullocks. 1 bigha of indigo cultivation required 2 ploughs. So this meant that a planter with 1000 bighas would need 2000 ploughs. So what happened? Investing on purchase and maintenance of ploughs was a big problem. Nor could supplies be easily got from the peasants, since their ploughs and bullocks were busy on their rice fields. Again, exactly at the time that the indigo planters needed them. So it was very difficult for them to maintain the plough. They have to buy so many ploughs and maintain them. It was a difficult task. Okay, and moreover, they also have seen that when they needed the ploughs and bullocks for the cultivation of indigo, at the same time they have seen that the peasants using the bullocks and ploughs for their rice cultivation. So there was a problem in this regard also. Till the late 19th century, planters were therefore reluctant to expand area under niche cultivation. Less than 25% of the land producing indigo was under this system. The rest was under an alternative mode of cultivation, that is the Rayatwari system. मतलब सिर्फ 25% में ही niche cultivation, I mean under niche system, the indigo cultivation could be done. जो बाकी जो 75 है, वो जो 75% है, वो रैयती सिस्टम के द्वारा ही जो है इंडिगो कल्टिवेशन होता था. ठीक है. Now what is this रैयती system? Here, under the Rayatwari system, the planter forced the Rayats to sign a contract or an agreement. At times, they pressurized the village headmen to sign the contract on behalf of the Rayats. Now, planters here, what they did, they forced the peasants to sign a contract, or they forced the village headmen to sign the contract on behalf of the Rayats. Those who signed the contract got cash advances from the planters at low rate of interest to produce indigo. Okay, but the loan committed the Rayats to cultivate indigo on at least 25% of the area under his holding. Here the planters, they used to give a loan to the Rayats for cultivating indigo. Okay, so that loan also they used to give at least for in a very low interest. Okay, so and in turn, while they were giving the loan at low interest, on contrary, they have to, the cultivators or the Rayats, it is their field, it is a field of any one Rayat, in this, at least in this 25%, in this area, at least in his field, at least in one portion of his area of his field, there only the indigo cultivation should be done. Okay, so the planters provided the seed and the drill, while the cultivators prepared the soil, sow the seed and look after the crop. So the planters, they provided seed and drill, everything to the cultivator, and it was the duty of the cultivator to prepare the soil, to sow the seed and look after the crops. Understood? When the crop was delivered to the planter after the harvest, a new loan was given to the Rayat and the cycle started all over again. Now what happened? Once the crop, the indigo crop is ready, so they used to deliver to the planter. After that, again they used to get a new loan. Okay, so why? Because after cultivating or harvesting indigo, they were not getting much money from the planter. So already they have taken the loan, they are unable to pay that loan. So in order to pay the previous loan, they take a new loan from the planter. So slowly and gradually they understood, they were actually they were attracted towards the loan which was given by the planter at so low rate, but later on they understood that they have been grabbed in the clutches of the planter, because for repaying that loan, to pay the loan, the previous loan, they used to take a new loan. So in this way they were in the cycle of loan. Okay, they were grabbed in the cycle of loan. So peasants who were initially tempted by the loan soon realized how harsh the system was. The price they got for the indigo they produced was very low, and the cycle of loan never ended. There were other problems too. The planters usually insisted that indigo be cultivated on the best soil, in which peasants preferred to cultivate rice. I told you for indigo cultivation they need a fertile land, and here the planter usually insisted that indigo should be cultivated on the best soil, and in which the peasants preferred to cultivate the rice. Indigo moreover had deep roots and it exhausted the soil rapidly. So already I told you that for the cultivation of indigo it needs a fertile soil, and the peasants were not ready to grow indigo in their field because there is a problem, because indigo has a deep root and it exhausts the soil rapidly. It spoils the soil, okay, because it has a very deep root. So once the indigo has been planted in that field, then it cannot be in the same land. You cannot harvest or you cultivate any other kind of crop like rice or wheat. That's why the farmers were not ready to cultivate indigo in their field. So my dear students, let's see how was indigo produced. Just look at your screen, you can see some pictures over there. An indigo factory located near indigo fields. Then women usually carrying the indigo plant to the vats, and also you can see the picture of the what? Beater. Now what is this vat? Vat is actually a fermenting or storage vessel. It was a vessel, okay, for making indigo or making a blue dye. They use this vessel, and that vessel is called as vat. Okay, that vessel is called as vat. Now 3 or 4 vats were needed to manufacture the dye. So here I would like to make you understand in a form of a flow chart. Now first vat, in that first vat means in the first what they used to do, first procedure, in the first vat for making a dye you need more than 3 or 4 vat. Vat is nothing, again I am telling you, vat is nothing, it is a fermenting or storage vessel. Is that clear? Now first procedure, stripping. Now once they bring the indigo plant to the factory, the work of the people over there, of the labor over there, is to strip off the leaves, to take out the leaves and soak in warm water for several hours. Second, when the plants fermented, bubble appears on the surface of the vat. Once it is soaked, means once the leaf is soaked, then it is left for fermenting for several hours. After that you will see that bubbles appear on the surface of the vat. Now rotten leaves were taken out and the liquid drained out into another vat. Now you will see that rotten leaves, जो मतलब सड़े हुए पत्तों को हम rotten leaves बोलते हैं, that they will remove that rotten leaves and the liquid and the remaining liquid it will drain out in another vat. It means another storage vessel. Okay, that is the second vessel or second vat, which is also, the second vat is also known as beater vat. What we call it as a beater vat. Now why we call a beater vat, why we call it as a beater vat, that I will make you understand right now. Now second vat is known as the beater vat. Why it is called as a beater vat? Because here the solution was continuously, here what they have to do, that once they remove the rotten leaves, then the left out water or left out solution will be continuously stirred and beaten with pedals. उसको लगातार हिलाना है और उसको पेडल से मारते रहना है, ठीक है, इसीलिए इसको सेकेंड वैट को हम क्या बोलते हैं, बीटर वैट. अंडरस्टूड? नाउ व्हेन द लिक्विड ग्रेजुअली टर्न ग्रीन एंड देन ब्लू, वो जो सोल्यूशन है पहले वो ग्रीन लगता है, धीरे धीरे वो ब्लू कलर में चेंज हो जाता है और उसमें उनको क्या डालना है, लाइम वाटर. लाइम वाटर वाज एडेड टू द vat. अब इसमें जो है नींबू का रस या नींबू का पानी उसमें डालना है. ओके. नाउ इंडिगो सेपरेटेड आउट इन फ्लेक्स अ मडी सेडिमेंट. अब जो है इंडिगो जो लेमन डालने के मतलब लाइम वाटर डालने के बाद आप देखेंगे कि इंडिगो जो ब्लू कलर है और एक मडी सेडिमेंट जो एक मिट्टी का छोटे छोटे कण जैसे जो है एक फ्लेक्स की तरह वो जो नीचे सेटल हो जाते हैं और ऊपर जो है पानी रहता है और नीचे जो है ये सेडिमेंट्स एकदम कलेक्ट हो जाते हैं. ओके. सेटल एट द बॉटम ऑफ द वैट एंड ए क्लियर लिक्विड रोज टू द सरफेस. देन द लिक्विड वाज ड्रेन्ड ऑफ. अब जो ये पानी है इसको उन लोग ड्रेन कर देते हैं, उसको उन लोग निकाल कर. देन द sediment here, sediment is what? It is a pulp. And this pulp is transferred to another, it is a indigo pulp. The pulp जो sediment में बोल रही हूँ, it is a indigo pulp. It is transferred to another vat. Understood? Okay. So what I said in this second vat is known as beater vat. Why? Because here we continuously need to stir and beat. That's why with the pedal, that's why it is called as a beater vat. Then once the liquid gradually turned from green to blue, then they have to add a lime water. Then you will see the small flakes. Flakes or in the form of sediment, they all settle down. This indigo, it settled down in the bottom of the vat, and in the surface you can see a clear liquid. Now after draining out that liquid, the sediment, the indigo pulp, okay, this is the indigo. The indigo pulp will transfer to another vat, and this is the third vat. Here, after the indigo pulp is been transferred in the third vat, here at this stage it is called as a setting vat. Then they used to press it and dry it for many days, and then it is ready for sale. Understood, students? So today what we have seen, what is indigo, why the peasants were reluctant to cultivate indigo, and why the planters were so interested in indigo cultivation, and how the indigo was produced. Just now I told you how it was produced in the form of a flow chart. I made you understand. So I hope what are the topics today we have learned, you have understood clearly and enjoyed the class as well, isn't it? So I request you all to take care of yourself. Thank you and Jai Hind.